You think burnout is about working too much. But here's what nobody tells you. Burnout is not about the hours you put in. It is about the boundaries you never set. The ancient Stoics faced wars, plagues, political chaos, yet they maintained inner peace not by doing less, but by protecting what mattered most. In the next few minutes, I will show you 5 specific boundaries that separate those who burn out from those who burn bright. These are not about quitting your job or abandoning your responsibilities. These are about becoming untouchable in a world designed to drain you. And if you stay until the end, you will discover why the 5th boundary is the one most people miss, and it is the exact reason they keep relapsing into exhaustion even after taking breaks. Let me show you how to recover from burnout the way Marcus Aurelius would, not by retreating from life, but by fortifying your inner citadel. Right now, you wake up already tired. You check your phone before your eyes fully open. Someone needs something. Another message, another demand, another crisis that apparently cannot wait. You tell yourself you will rest later, but later never comes because there is always something more urgent than your own recovery. You feel guilty when you say no. You feel selfish when you protect your time. You have convinced yourself that being available equals being valuable, that constant productivity equals worth. And here is the painful truth you already know, but have not admitted yet. You are not tired because you work hard. You are exhausted because you have let everyone and everything cross your boundaries without resistance. Your energy is not infinite, your attention is not unlimited. And every time you give it away without choice, you are not being generous. You are being reckless with the only resource that truly matters, your peace of mind. The Stoics understood something we have forgotten. You cannot pour from an empty cup, but more importantly, you cannot fill a cup that has no bottom. Right now, your life has no container. Everything flows in, nothing gets filtered, and you wonder why you feel drained. You have become a doormat with a calendar, and somewhere deep inside, you know this cannot continue. The resentment is building. The exhaustion is becoming your identity. And the worst part is, you have started to believe this is just how life is supposed to feel. It is not. Before we go deeper into these 5 boundaries, I need you to understand something important. What I am about to share with you is not theory. This is practical philosophy that has survived thousands of years because it works. And if you want to make sure you do not miss the upcoming videos where we break down each Stoic principle into daily practices you can actually use, hit that subscribe button right now. Here is why this matters. Most content about burnout tells you to rest more, but nobody teaches you how to protect the rest you finally take. That is what this channel does differently. We take ancient Stoic wisdom and translate it into boundaries, habits, and mindsets that work in our modern chaos. The people who subscribe are the ones who stop consuming motivation and start building unshakable inner peace. So subscribe now, because the next videos will show you exactly how to implement each of these boundaries step by step, and you do not want to miss that. Now, here is where most people make the critical mistake. They think setting boundaries means becoming cold, distant, unavailable. They think it means letting people down or being selfish. But the Stoics would tell you something radically different. Setting boundaries is not about rejecting others. It is about respecting yourself enough to show up as your best self, not your burnt-out self. When you are exhausted, you are useless to everyone, including yourself. When you protect your energy, you multiply your impact. This is not selfishness. This is strategy. And I am going to show you exactly how to implement this. But first, you need to understand why you keep falling back into the same patterns. There is something you are doing right now, probably without realizing it, that is sabotaging every attempt you make to recover. And we will address that in just a moment when we talk about the 3rd boundary. But first, let me show you what the Stoics actually did when they faced overwhelm. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations something that changed everything for those who truly understood it. He said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Notice what he did not say. He did not say you have power over your boss, your family, your circumstances. He said you have power over your mind, which means you have power over what you let in. Every demand on your time is a request, not a command. Every emotional reaction someone tries to provoke in you is an invitation, not an obligation. The moment you understand that you get to choose what crosses your threshold, everything changes. Your phone buzzes. You do not have to look. Someone gets angry. You do not have to absorb it. A project seems urgent. You get to decide if it truly is. This is not about being irresponsible. This is about being intentional. And that is exactly what these 5 boundaries will teach you to do. Imagine for a moment what your life would look like if you could move through your day without that constant background noise of anxiety. Picture yourself in a difficult conversation, and instead of your heart racing and your mind scrambling for the right response, you feel centered, calm, clear. Someone makes an unreasonable demand, and instead of immediately saying yes out of guilt or fear, you pause, you evaluate. You respond from wisdom, not from panic. You finish your workday, and instead of carrying every unresolved email and unfinished task into your evening, you close the door on it mentally. You are present with the people you love. You sleep deeply because you are not replaying every interaction from the day. This is not fantasy. This is what happens when you implement Stoic boundaries. You stop being reactive and start being intentional. You stop being available to everything and start being present for what matters. Now, let me explain why this works at a deeper level. Because understanding the mechanism is what makes the change permanent. Burnout happens when you confuse availability with virtue. You think being a good person means being accessible 24 hours a day. You think being responsible means responding immediately to every request. But here is what actually happens. When you have no boundaries, people learn they can interrupt you anytime. Your brain never fully rests because it is always in standby mode, waiting for the next demand. You train everyone around you that your time has no value, which means they stop valuing it. And then you resent them for something you taught them to do. The Stoics called this living according to external impressions rather than internal principles. You are letting the outside world dictate your inner state. And as long as that continues, burnout is not a possibility. It is a guarantee. Setting boundaries is not passive. It is not about withdrawing from the world. It is about engaging with the world on your terms, from a place of strength rather than depletion. Epictetus, who was once a slave, understood this better than most. He said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control." What lies beyond your control? Other people's expectations, their emergencies, their emotional reactions. What lies within your control? Where you place your attention, how you spend your energy, what you allow to disturb your peace. And when you start exercising that control through clear boundaries, you do not become less effective. You become exponentially more powerful. Think about the people you admire most, the ones who seem calm under pressure, the ones who get important things done without appearing frantic, the ones who are present when they are with you, not distracted by 1,000 other obligations. What do they have in common? They have boundaries. They have learned to say no to good things so they can say yes to great things. They have learned that protecting their energy is not optional, it is essential. You can learn this too. And it starts with understanding that every time you say yes when you mean no, you are not being kind. You are being dishonest. You are lying to yourself about your capacity, and you are lying to others about what you can actually deliver. Stoicism demands radical honesty, starting with yourself. Here is the truth about real recovery from burnout. It is not about a vacation. It is not about a weekend off. It is not about a meditation app or a morning routine, although those things can help. Real recovery happens when you restructure your relationship with demands, expectations, and your own energy. It happens when you stop seeing boundaries as walls that keep people out and start seeing them as filters that let the right things in. And that brings us to the 5 specific boundaries that will change everything. But I need to warn you about something first. The 3rd boundary is going to challenge everything you think you know about being a good person. It is the one people resist the most, and it is also the one that creates the most dramatic transformation. So pay close attention when we get there. The first boundary is the temporal boundary, and this is about protecting your time like Marcus Aurelius protected Rome. Time is the one resource you can never get back. Every minute you give to something unimportant is a minute stolen from something essential. The Stoics were obsessed with the brevity of life. Seneca wrote an entire letter about how we waste time as if we have an endless supply. then panic when we realize how little we actually have. Your temporal boundary means you stop treating your calendar like a suggestion box where everyone gets to drop their requests. It means you block time for deep work, for recovery, for relationships that matter. And here is the key that most people miss. You do not protect time by saying no to bad things. You protect time by saying no to good things that are not great things. That networking event might be valuable, but is it more valuable than the 2 hours you need to finish your most important project? That favor someone asked might be nice to do, but is it more important than the evening you promised yourself for rest? Start here. Look at your calendar for the next week. Identify 3 blocks of time that are non-negotiable. These are for your highest priorities, whether that is focused work, genuine rest, or meaningful connection. Then treat those blocks like you would treat a meeting with the most important person in your life, because you are. But protecting time is only the beginning. The second boundary cuts even deeper, and this is where most people start to feel uncomfortable, because it challenges the way you have been taught to interact with others. This is the emotional boundary, and it is about understanding that you are not responsible for managing other people's feelings. Read that again. You are not responsible for managing other people's feelings. The Stoics were clear about this. You control your own mind and your own reactions. You do not control anyone else's. Yet you have been trained since childhood to manage everyone's emotional state. Keep mom happy. Do not upset dad. Make sure your partner is not disappointed. Keep your boss satisfied. And in the process of managing everyone else's emotions, you have completely neglected your own. Here is what the emotional boundary looks like in practice. Someone gets angry at you for saying no. You do not absorb their anger. You acknowledge it, but you do not take it into your body. Someone is disappointed by your decision. You can have compassion for their disappointment without changing your decision to accommodate it. Someone tries to guilt you into doing something. You recognize the manipulation and you do not engage with it. This does not make you cold. It makes you clear, and clarity is the foundation of inner peace. The emotional boundary requires you to distinguish between empathy and absorption. Empathy means you understand what someone is feeling. Absorption means you take on what someone is feeling and make it your responsibility to fix it. The Stoic practices empathy without absorption. They see your pain, but they do not drown in it with you. They see your anger, but they do not become angry to match you. They maintain their inner equilibrium regardless of the emotional weather around them. This is what Marcus Aurelius meant when he talked about the inner citadel. It is a fortress that no external emotion can breach unless you open the gates. And you have been opening the gates to every emotional attack, every guilt trip, every disappointment, thinking that is what good people do. But good people with no boundaries become resentful people. And resentful people cannot help anyone, including themselves. Now we arrive at the third boundary, and this is the one I warned you about. This is the energetic boundary, and it is going to challenge your entire identity as someone who helps, someone who cares, someone who shows up. Here is the radical Stoic truth. You are not required to give your energy to every person or situation that demands it. Let me say it differently. Just because someone has a problem does not mean you have an obligation to solve it. Just because someone is struggling does not mean you must struggle with them. Just because someone is drowning does not mean you must drown trying to save them. This sounds harsh until you understand the deeper wisdom. When you give energy you do not have, you are not giving from abundance. You are giving from debt. And giving from debt creates resentment, exhaustion, and ultimately an inability to help anyone effectively. The Stoics believed in virtue, in helping others, in contributing to the common good. But they also believed in wisdom, and wisdom knows that a depleted person serves no one. Your energetic boundary means you evaluate every request, every demand, every crisis through this filter. Do I have the energy to give to this right now? Is this the best use of my limited energy? Will giving energy here allow me to maintain my capacity to show up for what truly matters? And here is the part that makes people uncomfortable. Sometimes the answer is no. Sometimes you have to let someone struggle with their own problem. Sometimes you have to watch someone face consequences without intervening, not because you do not care, but because you care enough about your long-term capacity to keep caring. A firefighter who rushes into every burning building without checking their oxygen supply does not save more people. They become another casualty. You are not a bad person for checking your oxygen supply before rushing in to help. You are a wise person ensuring you will still be standing when the people who truly need you show up. Implementing the energetic boundary looks like this in real life. Your phone rings with someone's crisis. Before answering, you pause and ask yourself, do I have the energy for this conversation right now, or will taking this call deplete me to the point where I cannot function for the rest of my day? A coworker asks you to take on an extra project. Before automatically saying yes, you assess whether you have the bandwidth or whether taking this on will push you past your sustainable capacity. A family member wants you to mediate their drama. You recognize that their drama is not your emergency, and you can love them without being their emotional manager. This is not cruelty. This is sustainability. And sustainability is how you show up consistently for the long run instead of burning bright for a moment, then disappearing into exhaustion. The fourth boundary is the relational boundary, and this is about understanding that not all relationships deserve the same level of investment. The Stoics had a clear hierarchy of relationships. There were people in their inner circle who received their full presence and attention. Then there were acquaintances who received cordiality but not intimacy. Then there were people who they kept at a distance because those relationships drained more than they nourished. You do not owe everyone the same level of access to you. You do not owe everyone deep friendship. You do not owe everyone your story, your struggles, your vulnerabilities. Some people have earned that level of relationship with you. Others have not. And trying to give everyone the same depth of connection is exhausting and impossible. Your relational boundary means you get clear about who is in your inner circle and who is not. The people in your inner circle get your time, your energy, your presence. They get the real you. Everyone else gets the polite, professional, friendly, but boundaried version of you. This does not make you fake. It makes you intentional about where you invest your relational energy. Marcus Aurelius was the emperor of Rome. He could not have deep relationships with everyone in the empire. He had a small circle of trusted advisors and friends. Everyone else received his duty and his respect, but not his intimate energy. You can do the same. That person who always has drama but never takes your advice? They do not need more of your energy. They need you to stop enabling their patterns by always being available. That friend who only calls when they need something but disappears when you need support? They have shown you they are not inner circle material. Treat them accordingly. This is not about being cold. This is about being honest about what kind of relationship actually exists, rather than what you wish existed. And now we come to the fifth boundary, the one most people completely miss, and it is exactly why they relapse into burnout even after taking time off. This is the digital boundary, and in our hyper-connected world, it might be the most important one of all. The Stoics did not have smartphones, but they understood the principle perfectly. They talked about guarding the mind against unnecessary impressions, against the constant barrage of other people's opinions and demands. If Marcus Aurelius were alive today, he would absolutely have rules about when and how he engaged with digital communication. Your digital boundary is about recognizing that your phone is not an extension of your body. It is a tool, and like any tool, you get to decide when you pick it up and when you put it down. Every notification is an interruption. Every alert is someone else's priority trying to become yours. Every scroll through social media is an invitation to compare, to judge, to feel inadequate or superior. And all of it is draining your energy in ways you do not even realize. Here is what the digital boundary looks like in practice. You have specific times when you check email, not constantly throughout the day. You turn off notifications for everything except true emergencies. You have hours, maybe even full days, when you are completely unreachable digitally. You do not respond to messages immediately just because you saw them. You create friction between stimulus and response. Someone sends you a message. You see it. You do not respond right away. You respond when you have the time and energy to respond thoughtfully, or you do not respond at all if it does not require a response. This drives some people crazy, and that is their problem, not yours. You have not signed a contract that says you must be available digitally at all times. That is an expectation society has created, and you get to opt out of it. The digital boundary also means you are ruthless about what content you consume. Every video you watch, every article you read, every social media post you engage with is shaping your mental state. The Stoics talked about choosing your inputs carefully because what you expose your mind to shapes who you become. Ask yourself, is this content making me better, wiser, more peaceful, or is it making me anxious, angry, distracted, envious? If it is the latter, stop consuming it. Unfollow accounts that make you feel bad. Stop watching news that keeps you in a state of constant fear. Curate your digital environment with the same care you would curate your physical environment. You would not invite toxic people into your home to live with you. Stop inviting toxic content into your mind to live there rent-free. Now here is how these 5 boundaries work together to create real, lasting recovery from burnout. The temporal boundary protects your schedule. The emotional boundary protects your inner state. The energetic boundary protects your capacity. The relational boundary protects your connections. The digital boundary protects your attention. Together, they create a fortress around your peace of mind. Not a fortress that keeps the world out, but a fortress that filters what comes in. Only the essential. Only what deserves your energy. Only what aligns with your values and your capacity. Everything else stays outside the walls. You implement these boundaries gradually, not all at once. Start with the one that resonates most strongly with you. Maybe you know your digital boundary is the weakest link. Start there. Turn off notifications today. Designate specific times to check messages. Create 1 hour each day where your phone is in another room. Notice what happens. Notice the initial anxiety, then notice the peace that follows. Notice how much mental space you suddenly have. Then add the next boundary, maybe the temporal boundary. Block out time on your calendar that is non-negotiable. Protect it fiercely. When someone asks for that time, you say no without explanation or justification. Just know, I am not available then. Watch how people adjust. They will adjust faster than you think. As you implement these boundaries, you will face resistance. Some of it will come from others. They are used to having unlimited access to you. They will test your boundaries. They will push back. They will try to make you feel guilty. This is where your Stoic training comes in. You do not argue. You do not justify. You do not defend your boundaries. You simply maintain them. The only person who needs to be convinced your boundaries are valid is you. When you are convinced, when you stand firm in the knowledge that protecting your energy is not optional, other people stop pushing because they realize the boundary is not negotiable. But most of the resistance will come from inside you. Your own guilt, your own fear of disappointing people, your own worry that setting boundaries makes you selfish or cold or uncaring. This is the work. This is where Stoicism becomes practical. You sit with that discomfort. You remind yourself that boundaries are not cruelty, they are clarity. You remember that every time you violate your own boundaries to please someone else, you are teaching yourself that your needs do not matter. And that is the opposite of Stoic wisdom. Seneca once wrote that we suffer more in imagination than in reality. You are suffering right now imagining what will happen if you set boundaries. You are terrified people will leave, will be angry, will think less of you. But here is what actually happens when you set clear, consistent boundaries. The wrong people filter themselves out. The people who only valued you for what you could do for them will drift away. And that is not a loss, that is liberation. The right people will respect your boundaries. They might be surprised at first, especially if you have never had boundaries before. But they will adjust because they actually care about you, not just about what you provide for them. And the most amazing thing will happen. You will start to respect yourself again. You will look in the mirror and see someone who values their own energy, their own time, their own peace. And that version of you is so much more powerful than the burnt-out, resentful, people-pleasing version you have been. The Stoics believed that the path to virtue ran through self-mastery. You cannot be courageous if you are too exhausted to stand. You cannot be wise if you are too distracted to think. You cannot be just if you are too resentful to care. Your boundaries are not obstacles to virtue. They are the foundation of virtue. They are what allow you to show up as your highest self consistently over time. This is not a quick fix. This is not a hack. This is a fundamental restructuring of how you move through the world. And it requires courage. It requires you to disappoint some people. It requires you to tolerate discomfort. It requires you to trust that protecting your energy is not selfish, it is necessary. But on the other side of that courage is a life you barely remember is possible. A life where you feel calm more often than anxious. A life where you finish your day with energy left over. A life where you choose your battles instead of fighting every battle that presents itself. Imagine waking up 6 months from now. You still have responsibilities, you still have challenges, but you move through them differently. Someone tries to provoke you emotionally, and you feel nothing. Not because you do not care, but because you have decided their emotional state is not your responsibility to manage. A crisis emerges at work, and you assess it clearly instead of panicking. You determine whether it is actually your crisis to solve, or whether someone else needs to step up. Your phone buzzes with messages, and you glance at it, then put it back down because you are in the middle of something that matters more. You finish your workday, and you mentally close the door on it. You are present for dinner. You are present for conversation. You are present for rest. And when you lay down to sleep, your mind is quiet because you have spent the day living according to your principles, not according to everyone else's demands. This is available to you. Not someday. Not after you fix everything else in your life. Right now. Starting with one boundary. One decision to protect what matters. You are not going to be perfect at this. You will violate your own boundaries sometimes. You will say yes when you meant to say no. You will absorb someone's emotion even though you know better. You will check your phone during time you designated as off limits. This is part of the process. The Stoics did not demand perfection. They demanded progress. Every time you notice you have violated your boundary, you have an opportunity. You can beat yourself up, which accomplishes nothing, or you can simply notice it, learn from it, and recommit to the boundary. This is how you build the muscle of self-respect. This is how you become the kind of person who keeps commitments to themselves, not by never failing, but by getting back up every single time and trying again. Your burnout is real, your exhaustion is valid, but it is not permanent. It is the result of specific patterns you have been running, and patterns can be changed. The 5 boundaries we have covered today: temporal, emotional, energetic, relational, and digital. These are not abstract concepts. These are practical tools that have worked for thousands of years because they are based on truth. The truth that your energy is finite. The truth that you get to choose where it goes. The truth that protecting yourself is not the opposite of serving others. It is the prerequisite for serving others sustainably. You have been trying to run on empty, wondering why you keep breaking down. Now you know. And knowing is only the beginning. The question is, what will you do with this knowledge? The ancient Stoics faced challenges we cannot imagine. Wars that lasted decades, plagues that killed millions, political chaos that threatened everything they valued. And through it all, the ones who survived with their sanity and their integrity intact were the ones who protected their inner citadel. They did not control the external chaos. They controlled their response to it. They set boundaries around their peace, around their attention, around their energy. And they thrived not despite the chaos, but because they refused to let the chaos penetrate their inner fortress. You can do the same, starting today, starting with one boundary. One moment where you choose your peace over someone else's expectation. That one moment will change everything, not because the world will suddenly become easier, but because you will become stronger. And a strong person with clear boundaries can weather any storm. So here is your path forward. Choose one boundary to implement this week. Just one. Maybe it is turning off notifications on your phone. Maybe it is blocking out 2 hours on your calendar that are non-negotiable. Maybe it is deciding that you will no longer absorb your coworkers' anxiety every time they vent to you. Whatever it is, commit to it fully. Do not half-measure this. Set the boundary clearly, then maintain it even when it is uncomfortable. Especially when it is uncomfortable. Because that discomfort is not a sign you are doing something wrong. It is a sign you are doing something different. And different is exactly what you need right now. Track what happens. Notice how people respond. Notice how you feel. And most importantly, Notice the space that opens up when you stop giving your energy to things that do not deserve it. That space is where your recovery lives. That space is where you remember who you are when you are not burnout. That space is where you build the life you actually want instead of the life everyone else wants from you. If this resonated with you, if you felt that spark of recognition, that sense of possibility, I need you to do 3 things right now. First, hit that like button. It tells me this content helped you, and it helps this video reach other people who are struggling with the same burnout you are facing. Second, subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications. The next videos will break down each of these boundaries in even more detail, and you will get practical exercises you can implement immediately. This is not just about watching content. This is about transforming your life using ancient wisdom, and you do not want to miss what is coming. Third, leave a comment telling me which of these 5 boundaries you are going to implement first. Temporal, emotional, energetic, relational, or digital. Write it down. Make it public. When you declare your intention publicly, you are much more likely to follow through and read the other comments. You will see you are not alone in this struggle. There is a whole community of people here building Stoic boundaries together, supporting each other, holding each other accountable. This is how change happens. Not alone, but together. So comment right now. Which boundary are you starting with? I will be reading every single comment, and I will see you in the next video where we go even deeper into building your unshakable inner fortress.